What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracey, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And man, it's so appropriate when you hear that lion roar. You know, they say you can hear a lion roar up to 100 miles or something like that. So other lions can call other lions from so far. And that was part of when I was naming my company and had the whole lion logo was I've got a loud ass voice that nobody knows. So one of those things I've always been told since I was a little kid, quiet it down, lower your voice, all that good stuff. And so when I was naming my company, it was like, wow, I've got this voice that people can hear me from all over. I got that roar right. But one of the things, and I've got that affinity to lions. I think that a lion is a mindset, and in talking about like calling other lions, a lion can recognize another lion. And I got I'm so grateful to have met James Pless back in July and recognized right away that this guy's a lion. And he was sitting and telling me about his IT business, and we were talking about it. And I had mentioned something about like passion and having passion for business, and he started telling me about this product that him and his wife have, and he just lit up, and I'm like, that right there, and super cool because he took that and ran with it, and he's out there crushing it, and I'm super excited to talk because we've just sat here and just jammed while we're waiting to get set up and stuff like that. And we've had basically a whole half episode. He was like, is this being recorded? Like none of it. None of it's being recorded. So I'm super excited to dive in and give you all that inside scoop and whatnot. So James, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
I know you're a grizzled vet in the studio here. So this is your third episode.
Third episode. Yeah, I feel experienced.
I love it.
It's always fun coming in here.
What I love is that there are so many podcasts out there, and I think all of them are completely different. And so I know you were in the Chamber podcast, you're in the Putkellas, and then mine, and me and the Putkellas talk all the time about how we have sometimes the same guests on, but they're completely different interviews. So I love that element.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. You actually get to see how the different interviewers can bring out different aspects of you. You know, it's definitely interesting.
So tell me, you know, I kind of gave the intro from the IT business to candles. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you led up to this.
So my wife and I, we met online. I like to call our marriage an arranged marriage because I'm the one that arranged it. You know, we met and got married within, I believe, 23 days.
Wow.
So we started talking. We shared about what we want out of life, what our values are, what our morals are. We both decided we wanted to get married before we started talking, and so we started out there with the mindset to do that, and we found each other. You know, it just it really clicked. We got married February of 2020, and then COVID hit. Now my wife is from Africa, so we actually I flew over there to meet her in February 2020. We got married on the 4th of February, and my son was born in October 17th.
Of 2020.
Of 2020. So when all the stuff was going on, I was stuck here in Nashville while she was stuck in South Africa.
I was going to say, how did that all play out? Were you guys in Africa? Were you separated? How'd that all happen? You know,
it was stressful. So I was focusing on making money and trying to stay busy here while everything was going on so that I could buy a house for when they came here because I was just living in an apartment. And so I was working all the time. That whole time was pretty stressful, as you can imagine. You know, there's really not any ability to travel, especially South Africa was really locking things down.
I can imagine.
She was stressed out, you know, pregnant the whole time in a foreign country from even where her family's at, because she's from Angola. So, yeah, it was a pretty hard time. I started COVID, 245 pounds, boxing every day, and my boxing gym closed down, and I gained a whole bunch of weight. And I've been trouble going to find something I love that much as far as physically goes, you know?
Yeah.
It was, even other gyms are hard.
That was tough. Like just that period, like everything's shutting down. And then you have your things that like keep you like mentally and physically locked in.
Yes. And then it was just took it all away, you know? And I said, like, why would you even close down? Just let people in the back door, speak easy style, you know? Like where we're at now, this place wouldn't close down with the name that it has.
I absolutely love it.
You know?
Yeah.
It was just a shame that we all had that problem.
well, we can talk about that all day, like
Yeah,
in
for sure.
retrospect now, especially.
Yeah.
But so how long before you were reunited with your wife and
So
soon
it
to
would
be
have
child?
been August of 21.
Wow.
Yeah, she wasn't able to get there because the biggest limiter was immigration in our country. You know, they closed down they closed down everything. Like we couldn't talk to the government. That everything took months and months just to get a piece of paperwork approved. And so that between both governments, even South Africa was terrible. So yeah, she didn't get here till August.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was that like when she got here?
It was great. You know, she was jet lagged and exhausted from flying here with a newborn and about 3,000 bags. I had a Ram 3500 flatbed with like a 10-foot bed, and we loaded that thing up with just all of her suitcases full of baby stuff, her clothes. Like she moved here.
I was gonna say, how do you move from
Yeah.
South Africa? I'm trying to picture like how that's even logistical.
A lot of
possible.
DHL and a lot of extra pounds on the airport.
Yeah. So was she getting stuff like a few days after she arrived?
Yep. Before, after, like I was just putting stuff in closets waiting for her. Yeah.
That's so
I bought her a house, and as soon as she got there, she started making it a home. And it was not a home before. You know, you can imagine I had 2 broken down couches, and there a TV on the floor, or whatever. You know, the whole 9 yards. Even being a guy that mounts TVs for a living. You know, you never take care of your own stuff as well. You just take care of other people's stuff. It seems. You know, you do it all at work, and you want to leave it there.
That's exactly it.
It takes the actual, okay, I'm going to the garage. I'm going to make this stuff happen for my house today. You know, sell yourself some hours.
Because you do the stuff all day long for other people.
Yes, that's what it is. It's like we don't even, you know, it's funny. I make a conscious effort to burn our candles because, you know, we spend so much time with them. It's like, yeah, I know exactly how they are. So we make the conscious efforts. Like whenever we make a new cup, we make sure we take it home and burn it. So.
Well, and so like, you don't even have to burn these candles necessarily, right? In order to.
No, you don't have to burn them. They're so fragrant that they'll make your room smell amazing.
That's so awesome. So, okay. So she gets here. Has she always made candles? Has she always been like?
She's always been a baker.
Okay.
She's always been a
baker.
Yep. She's always been a very crafty. She's always been good at baking stuff. And so when she first got here, she was baking me cakes all the time.
Which didn't help.
It didn't help. It did not help at all. But we had to make the discussion like cakes are for certain times. So now for her birthday, she gets a chance to make a cake. But what was it?
So she gets here and I asked her about if she's always made.
No, so she didn't start making candles actually till we moved to Michigan, which would have been 2022. And so she's only been making candles since July of last year.
What led to that?
No, she just wanted something extra to do with when all the kids were, you know, like we have a lot of kids, so they play together a lot, and so there's sometimes where you just don't have anything to do. So she wanted to make candles, and so she started doing it as a hobby just to give gifts. And I was like, wow, these are really good. Like, why don't you put together a presentation? We'll present it to our family as a potential business, and we'll see if they want to invest. And so they did, and she blew it out of the water, and she's just been improving ever since. Like, even if you look at her first candles versus today, it's insane, like how much she's improved, and she's only a year in. I just can't wait to see when she's already got 10,000 hours in. So I guess she is an expert.
Wow. Yeah.
How many hours in a year? She's worked a lot of them. She's worked probably 60 hours a week just between the basement. Like when we had our other house, we had our workshop in the basement. So she was just working all the time, kids on her back in the basement, hanging out, playing with her.
Well, it's so impressive because you talk about like artwork. I mean, you see these amazing looking desserts, like a bowl of Fruit Loops, and it looks real, you know? So thinking about that, only doing this for a year, that is insane.
Yeah. It's really just imagine where she'll be in 2 years, 3 years, you know.
What a testament for the consistency.
What's that?
The just consistency of doing a thing. And like you said, the 10,000, the expert hours.
Yeah.
Are you a Gladwell fan? Malcolm Gladwell?
Probably without knowing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the book, but there's this book about the study of greatness and the things that, you know, people say that you get lucky to be to be in a certain place or like to be super successful. And Malcolm Gladwell broke down the elements of what makes a person successful. And it's like these elements of, there's some luck, but there's a ton of things that come into it. And part of it is having access to master something.
Yeah.
The patience and the access to be able to master anything. So like Bill Gates, for example, he came up and got put into a private school where they possessed, or this private school owned one of the only full range computers in the United States. And so he got unlimited access hours to be able to learn how to program things. So before he was out of high school, he had over 10,000 hours worth of programming in, which made him one of like 5 of the most elite programmers in the world at that time.
Programming privilege.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you look at him now, it's Bill Gates. Back then, he was coming out of high school at a different level operating than everybody else in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you got to figure out how to grow where you're at, you know. I've seen grass grow through cement.
True story. Yeah.
You know? So you just everybody's in a different spot, you know, whether you're born rich, poor, if you're born with advantage, without advantage in different areas. I mean, people come out of nothing and come out of something. Oh, there's always a way.
There's always a way.
And you can make anything profitable. It's just how you look at it. Like while you were talking there, I was like, you can make anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, if you look at where we're at in 24, people are making money on all kinds of stuff. You just have to be creative with how you look at it.
So have you always had like that entrepreneur mind?
I've always been around my father, who was always self-employed. I don't know that he ever had the ability to collect things in a way to push them forward well enough. But he always was pretty much self-employed, or always in a position where he was given more responsibility very quickly. Like I've seen him multiple times go from being just hired as a cashier at a gas station to being the manager within a month. But that's because of mental illness, because he's so dialed in, but he never relaxes. So he does 4 people's worth of labor in a day and then wears himself out. So instead of working smarter by being more efficient with how he works as like 4 people, because you know how it is. Like, you know that people like you and me, we do a normal person's 2, 3, 4 people.
Yep.
That much stuff.
Yep.
And so he was never able to do that without it being his time. He wasn't able to correlate that. So I was able to see the hard work and the honesty from him. And then I've been able to collect that by aging and growing up. You know, I wasn't the same as I was 25. You know, I'm 32 now. And I just keep growing. You know, when I was 25, I was a mess, you know, and a mess of like subconscious and conscious. Mm-hmm. And it's just been conscious work to make that subconscious work.
It's that awareness.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Being self-aware of how I am, being self-aware of how I affect other people, you know. It's like I woke up one day, like when I was 25. It's like that weird mindset. You wake up at a certain point, your brain is like, okay, now we're ready to become an adult and figure out how to be an effective adult. And that's where that came from. It's like I took that one step and then it's just all been like a floodgate. And now you can pluck the things out like, well, the thing I'm going to be conscious about right now is how do I make sure that I'm in people's life the right amount? You know, how do I compartmentalize my relationship so that I'm not over expecting than what someone's able to give? So that's one of the things I'm working on.
I love it. And I love, you know, just even starting talking about like recognizing other lions. And you were like, everybody comes to a point in life where they, I don't know how you said it, grow up or however you just phrased it. But that's not true. You know, there's a lot of people that don't ever realize that they don't ever become aware of. And they're the ones that are, I'm here in this situation because other people did this to me, right?
The economy's bad.
Other people had great connections.
I was poor.
It was political. I grew up poor. I was abused.
It's all kinds of excuses.
I've been abused. I grew up poor. You know, like I had a piece of shit dad. I had, you know, all these different things. Like for the longest time, like you, I don't know when you say like, you know, it took to your 25. I don't know what that looked like before you. For me, I was a victim in this victim mentality of blaming everybody else.
I think I was the victimizer.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just walked around angry all the time. Or I wouldn't say I was angry all the time because when anger is in you, it's in you. It's not. It doesn't go away. But when I let that go, that's when I noticed the difference. But before that, I was definitely the victimizer. You know, using people, and I never felt like I used people in a negative way, but I used them like it was a friend was or an employee was a tool, like a screwdriver. Instead of we're very well taken care of screwdriver and respected screwdriver, but a screwdriver nonetheless, like, I need you here, go there, do it, that kind of thing. And I've realized as I've gotten older that you can't do that. People can't be tools for you. You have to meet them where they're at. Some people are only ever going to be able to do a certain amount, and that's about it. You can't push them to do more. It'll just harm your relationship.
It comes down to, again, that being that lion, because you're really describing like the kind of the trait, and you talked about your dad, me, you doing the work of like 3 or 4 people. Like, it's that superpower, it's that blessing and that curse. Because when you can do that, it's hard to look at, why can't you do that?
It is. It's very, very hard. It's something that subconsciously I've struggled with for probably 12 years, and consciously struggled with for 6 to 8 months, and only recently been able to overcome. Yeah, probably around October 1st-ish.
What was the thing?
Just letting go of things that I thought were keeping me behind, like, not because of what they were, but just because of who I was expecting them to be, like people around me. You know, I thought that I had to pull people or push people and drag them to things. And I realize now that you can't drag a horse to water and hold his head underwater until he stops kicking and is dead, because then he won't talk to you no more.
That's why you laughed when I said that this morning.
It's a beautiful analogy, because it's hilarious and accurate, and it really shows the weight of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, imagine the horse is a relationship.
It is. Yeah. For me, like, I wanted it so bad for people. I would see people in similar situations to me, and I just wanted it so bad that I would like push and push and push until you have a dead horse on your you know, like you've killed them.
It's amazing, man. Like, you can want so much for people and know exactly how to help them get it.
Yes.
It's like that's why I was saying, like, it was really like, imagine me looking at my screwdriver, like, man, I can do so much with this. I can mount a TV with this. I can fix a car. I can't fix a car, but someone can fix a car with this. You know, I can just do so much with this tool, and all I have to do is just manipulate it in the way that I need to manipulate it to mount the TV, to fix this thing, to do that.
Yeah. But the person's not that
But
tool.
a person's not a tool. It doesn't have a battery, and you can't unplug it and put it away.
And it has its own thoughts and desires.
It has its own thoughts and desires and traumas and holdups and lack of energy or lack of whatever, or different real goals. You know, I had to realize too that I'm a very open, honest person. Anybody can ask me anything about myself. I am willing to give anybody as much as they'll let me pour into them. You know, I am an overflowing cup. I mean, massively. I have so much to give anybody that wants me around. And it's just finding the people that want me around. Like, it has to be natural. It can't be something that's forced.
Even when you were the driver or the pusher, I forgot how you phrased it again, but was it because you had that desire to give a lot? Or do you feel like ever since you kind of shifted that now you have this like this flowing energy to give? Did
Specifically?
that make sense? Yeah. So have you always been like this, like you've wanted the most out of this thing, not just for your tool purpose, but giving them your, you know, your energy, your resource, you're just talking about how like you're kind of that overflowing cup.
Mm-hmm. Well, at the moment, the cups that I'm filling are my immediate family. Before it was my extended family that I was trying to fill. And so now I'm just focusing inward and on myself again. I've always focused on myself and inward, but just like, if they don't deserve a cut, we're going to cut them off. That kind of thing. Yeah. You know?
Yep.
Like, not everybody is meant to be in your life all the time. And that's a hard thing to realize, especially when there's titles on it, like family, brother, sister, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's tough calls in
really
relationships.
Is. Yeah. And that's why I had to realize that sometimes those titles have limits. And limits can be imposed by other people. And I've had to realize, too, that if you have a problem with the way someone else is acting, it's not them that has a problem, it's you. You know, you have to let people do what they're going to do, and you focus on be good with that. That was a really interesting thing for me to learn.
That is interesting.
Yeah. But now I feel like I've mastered it in a very short period of time. You know, because I was as soon as I'm able to, I just watch the things when they're coming to me and when things are attacking me, whether it be Satan or whether it be other people around. I watch that, and then it becomes much weaker because they only can feed off your attention and energy.
It's so true. It's like the two wolves. Have you heard the old man talking about the two wolves?
No, tell me.
So an old man sitting down to the little boy, and he says that there's inside you is two wolves. One's angry, deceitful, not trusting, like all these like negative things, right? The other one is good, it's loving, it's energy, it's all these good things, right? And the little boy says, which one wins? And the old man says, the one that you feed.
Mm-hmm. That's really amazing. I think about it, and I was actually talking to someone the other day. I don't remember who it was, but I told them, if I went the wrong way, I could do so much bad. You know, I think Michael Cox has a podcast. I don't know if you ever watched it, but he's like this criminal mastermind. Like he was a scammer, super intelligent guy. Like he saw all the angles. He was able to perceive the threats before they hit him, all those kind of things. And I was like, wow, if I had gone the other way, you know, instead I didn't, you know, I'm a very honest person. I've had arrangements with employees for very large amounts of money as bonuses. And before the bonuses even due, for no reason, I'll experience them try and sabotage the relationship in such a way. One employee of mine I won't name, but it was a situation where I was going to pay for a medical thing for him as like a bonus for working for me because he was such a great employee. And it was a very large amount, $6,000. Okay. And, but I really enjoyed the employee. And so I wanted to take care of him. And before the money was even due, because we had an arranged date agreement, he seemed to like start wanting to sabotage the business relationship. And all of a sudden, he was like, oh, you're probably not even going to pay me because of all this. And it's like, that didn't happen. The date came and I call him and say, hey, you coming over to get this? And it was never even a thing for me. But other people, because it's in them.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's weird.
Yeah. They have that trauma or that trigger or something that they don't trust. But
it's not in me.
Yep. Going into it, so your wife's been doing the soaps for a year.
Mm-hmm. Candles. Soaps. We're going to get into soaps. But we're focusing on perfecting our departments of business now, and then we are going to get into soaps for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. That makes sense. We
want to be in all the fragrant products. You know, we currently have some room sprays there, and some linen sprays, some body sprays, but we want to get into everything. We want to have a wide range of stuff so people aren't just looking at us come gift time. They can come in there for some products that they might like for themselves.
So you mentioned talking about bringing it to your family, the business idea, and two, talking about good techs and in what you're doing with that business. What does that look like? And I know you and your family are tight as far as business goes. Can you explain that a little bit?
So as far as the candle business goes, it feels like it's made me really close to my wife. I think it's really strengthened our marriage. It's helped strengthen our ability to parent our kids. I feel like we've just become really like super parents, just with the ability to give our kids love. I spend so much time with my kids now. Before I came here, I was at the playground, That's
awesome.
Yeah. We walked to the playground in our apartment complex, and then I hung out with the kids, played with them for a little bit. And then I walked home and got in the bus and came here. So I get to do that almost every day, whether it's working in IT, dispatching to do some IT work, or running to the shop to open up or deliver some candles to USPS or whatever it might be. It's just like I get to have that fragmented ability to organize my own chaos and flow, and it's like I can do that very well for large amounts of people, or I can do it very well for my people.
That's so awesome, because I think a lot of people listening that are entrepreneurs, we all go into business because we want that. So how do you purposely create that out of the gates?
It's the purpose.
Yeah.
There's no other purpose. I don't care about money. Money is just a tool. It literally is just a tool to manipulate in the ways to get the things you want. And the things I want are spend time with my family. My immediate family, my wife and my kids, and my wife's family, and as much of my family as that I can include on my side. That's just the whole purpose. The whole purpose was family and is family. That's what I set out with the candle business to do. And so that's when you make it the goal and the money doesn't matter, then you make a way to make that all just orchestrate. It's nice.
That is so nice.
It's really nice.
It's so nice because, again, so many people start their business for that reason, but then the money gets in the way.
I did that. Yeah, I've done that. I did that with the first time I started, when I started the IT company, is that we started out with that focus, and then none of the extended family, because it's a family business with extended families, different fathers with different wives and kids. And so the idea is that you come together as a family to enjoy the relaxation. And then when you have to do business, you do business better because you spend time together. You're developing and building the bonds and that trust, and that knowledge of competency, especially with business partners. Me and my wife, we know each other's weaknesses. We know each other's strengths, and I know where to push her and she knows where to pull me back, because sometimes I can move too fast. So she's able to be like, hey, maybe we should look at this again. And then if I'm being honest with myself, I look at it again and I'll say either, yes, that makes sense, or no, it doesn't make sense.
That's so awesome. Like, one, being able to meet your wife online, you two really connecting really quickly. I would imagine you guys have kind of opposite strengths and weaknesses. We
speed ran all of our marital issues. Like, we really got it done quick. I would say within the first year and a half, like, because we were so remote.
Yeah.
We had so many deep conversations, video chats, phone chats, and then just texting back and forth, all day and all night, obviously. And so we learned a lot about each other. We learned that it is the base that we founded our marriage on was concrete because we wanted the exact same thing. Now we just had to figure out how to make it work. So everything from there is really easy. Like, we really ran through all of the problems that we would normally have throughout maybe 20 years of marriage. Like, people say they're married forever and they still argue all the time. We got it done really quick. We just figured out all of the pain points, and then we just been perfecting them ever since, working to be more efficient together. And accepting the things that we're not ever going to be good at, but then changing the things that we have to change. Like, when she first came here, she put the knives upside down in the dryer. And I was like, babe, this is one of the biggest things you have to change, because I can just imagine myself waking up and coming to the sink and just grabbing a dish and
cutting your hand
and
off.
That's it. We're going to the hospital now. So, and it's funny. It seems to be like an African thing, or maybe it's just her family thing, because whenever her mom's over or sister's over, they did it too. I had to get them to change that too. It's weird, but it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Look, how do you know if it's a knife? Look at the handle. They're all different.
You don't have to have the blade up.
Right. And I was like, okay. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
So it's like having that communication, breaking down those walls right out of the gates.
Well, we had a conversation very early on that we have to be open to critique. Like, if you're just going to be defensive every time, then we're never going to make an efficient machine here. Like, we're married, we have kids, this thing has to work. Like, there's no failure here. There isn't the ability to fail. So the only thing that we have to do is just make it work. So that means that we have to talk, we have to be brave, and when we don't agree with things that each other are saying, we have to pause and be like, all right, I know you're reacting. Your voice is getting a little louder. Let's just be like, I'm not doing this to hurt you, And that's something I realized too, is I had to communicate very early on, is that traumas maybe with both of our relationships is that we had to be aware that I'm not trying to hurt you. This isn't an attack. This is an opportunity for me to help you grow by showing you something about yourself, but you have to be open to seeing it. And you have to be accepting and not be defensive. And that's me too. I'm probably one of the most defensive people, because I always, before I used to always have this thing like, you've probably had it too. Like, when you're so capable, it's like, if everyone else isn't able to activate these other two people inside of them, then you kind of feel like you're on a cloud sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to check yourself. And I'm able to let go of my ego finally. But it took work. It took just watching myself and seeing like, oh, you're getting a little fluttery right now because someone's saying good things about you. You don't feed that monster because you don't want that monster. You want to be here and just be yourself. Like it's one thing to be confident and brag about yourself, but it's another thing to be braggadocious, right? Like, to be like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like shoving it down people's throats.
There's a difference, obviously, between the confidence and the cockiness.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's a big difference. Like there can be confident people that then don't learn, because if, like I say, that cockiness or that level of arrogance is if you're not coachable, you're going to always be in that same spot. So you could have an advantage over other people from the start. But if you're not learning and growing, if you're not recognizing your failures, you're probably going to be repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Wasting a lot of time, wasting a lot of energy, and not moving anywhere. You know, you may move up in an income bracket.
Yeah.
But how much harder are you working for it? How much more stressful is it? I don't want to work that hard. To be rich, it should be because your machine is wealthy. To be wealthy, it should be because you have a machine that's working, because you put care and love into it, and because you're constantly oiling everything, constantly making sure things are working. But you can only do that if all the pieces are in place.
I love that analogy of a machine. You painted such a great picture, and that's whether it's business, it's a marriage, you're really taking that, there's obviously emotion behind it. So easy to sit here and talk about it, but you're really taking that out, coming outside of the box and looking at it from that overview and putting it into a machine and a system.
I don't want my love to have to be hard, like it should be easy for us to love each other. We shouldn't have to work so hard. I shouldn't have to worry about making mistakes or presenting myself in a less than flattering manner, And I'm realizing that too, is that we can't be so critical of such small things that are so unimportant, They just don't matter. Like, let the small things go and then be communicative about the big things.
So have you always been like this in relationships, or is this how did you stumble upon this thought process? Yeah.
My marriage, coming back to my father, both in America and in heaven, just coming back to them so that I can have the ability to face the world, forgiving my father so that I come back to my father. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a journey since then. It's just been figuring out who I am and how I want people around me and how I want to present myself to people around me. It's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun, and it's my biggest topic on this show, which is why I'm just sitting here from like curiosity, and like I'm asking you probably like not even full questions, because I want to know more, because like the biggest thing that I stress to people is living in that complete freedom of being yourself.
Yeah.
I did a whole solo episode a couple weeks ago, and it was just I had an event of people that told me they didn't want me to do the speaking event for their people, because I had posted a content or posted a video, and they didn't like the way that I talked in the video, and they're like, that doesn't represent our group. I'm like, great, awesome. Like, because if you're offended by that, you're going to be offended by a lot more things that I say. Like it gets way worse from there. If that sends you over, if that picture sends you over, like it's going to get worse. And so great, because I'm not going to like mask or be somebody different or water or dim myself down in order to be a part of your group. Yeah. Because then I'm not helping you either.
The funny thing is that you say that, like, being able to be yourself, right? But yourself has to actually be someone that people would want to be around.
Yes.
Like you have to be conscious. Like, how many people do we see online, especially on social media these days? They're so proud to be themselves. And then, I mean, I can't single anything out specifically, but just we all know, we all have our certain baseline we operate from. You're like, well, if you are so happy to be yourself, like, look at yourself. What are you doing? Whatever it may be.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that perspective, because I think when you say be yourself, or when I say that a lot, from that other perspective of like, what if you're a jerk? What if you're really just a jerk that like is going and hurting people's feelings or whatever? And it's from that sense of, I think we're put on this world to serve other people.
We're put on this world to grow. Yeah, and to serve other people. Yeah, both of those things. Yeah, absolutely.
I think those are the two most important things.
There's probably a whole list.
Yeah.
We could come up with a whole list of stuff we can put down for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
But so like we're growing, and then also from those experiences that we've had, we're now able to have a different thought process on the world, or a different, that we can then help other people.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see people when they just want to put their feet in the ground, and it's like, I'm not changing anything, because we've told people it's okay to be who you are. It's like, well, there's some things, like we all have traumas. We all have things that hold us back from being a better version of ourselves. It's just like I was talking about with my marriage. It's like, we have to be willing to take criticism because we can be better.
Yes.
And we're not the smartest person in the room. I'm not the smartest person in the room, you know?
Well, and so I absolutely love this in-depth conversation because I think that going back to you being like, I was the bully essentially, you know, like if you go on living life like that, and you're like, I'm being myself, are you truly happy?
Right. That's something you have
you're
to
living miserable,
see.
like, right? So, I mean, if you're a jerk, there's some kind of thing going on inside you, a trauma, a trigger, something's going on inside you. You're not naturally a jerk. There's something that you're responding to. More or less, it's fear. You don't want to be hurt. You're putting in the shell, like all those kind of things. And so putting in the work is so important to really understand who are you?
Yeah.
What brings you joy? What brings you happiness and light? And go seek those things, because if you surround yourself around those things, you're probably not going to walk around and be a jerk.
Well, and you'll probably glow.
You'll glow. When you start talking about the candles, it was like, boom, let's talk about more of this energy, right? Like it was a different conversation than when we were talking about the IT stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to cut my chains off and run.
Yeah.
You know, just really figure it out. And then I also had to cut some chains off mentally. Like I said, just being okay with that, being okay with the chains being cut.
Yep.
And then once that was overcame, then it's just really, everything's perfect. It's great. Like I don't have any chains because I've cut them. Now I can, the balloon can float as high as it's able to go, you know, many sandbags as I can cut off.
And then you have your machine of your family.
Yes. And as much as I can get that machine to work fluidly. Yeah. And then that's interesting to grow into that too. Just dealing with different people and different personalities, especially when they're from overseas, because they have different, not necessarily different morals, but just different ways of doing things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just figuring out how to operate in different environments. You know, I'm very adaptable. I've always prided myself on that. And it's just being able to fill whatever container it is that I have to fill at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's again, how do we connect with people? We kind of meet them where they're at a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to figure out where people are. I've had people tell me that they're in a position that they're not actually in, saying yes, yes, yes with their mouth and their head, but internally screaming no, which is a hard thing, because I never do that. I don't understand that. What's inside is outside. You see what's inside. So it's amazing to me that someone could do that. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah. So like when I first started my coaching business, I was working with all these people that wanted a result. Mm-hmm. They're struggling. They tell you all the things that they're having pain with. And then I start working with them, and it really turns out they like that pain. You know, like I just like bitching essentially, you know, like, and they didn't say that, but they would not go and do the things that was necessary to get off that needle, you know, like they would just stay on that needle and look for somebody to be like, man, that sucks, you know?
Yeah. It's like getting something coddled, I guess, like getting told like, that's okay. Like, it's almost what it feels like when someone says, yeah, that sucks. It's almost like saying, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I've never been good at that. I've never been good at saying, oh, that sucks. Because if they give me something, I know the answer to it. I'd rather say the answer, but then people don't like that. So that's one of those things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like being okay with being yourself. Like, there's a decision to make there.
Yep.
Is that something that I want? Because the reaction that comes with that is that nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah.
So then that's something that I just have to be like, okay, so I'm just saying that sucks from now on. I'm providing no value to this person because overall, most people won't take that value.
Yep. I love asking this question. And I have somebody on my team that would come up to me and they'd be complaining or whatever. And we're like, so would you like a solution or would you just like to bitch? And I was like, wait. And if they were, and no judgment, if you're like, I'm just here to bitch, like, great. They're probably the better person to talk to,
right.
You know, like, because I've got the solution. Let me know when you want to solve it. And then I'll walk away.
How do you know how there's like all those officeisms where like you can say certain mean things in a very office appropriate way? How do you do that one in an office appropriate way? That's a question.
I I'm not very good office appropriate. That's why I'm like,
I've never worked in an office.
Yeah. So I've always been like, no, I don't want to say I've always been like, I was able to free myself at a certain point in my career, to be comfortable with who I am and how I getting better with speaking with people. I had to learn that I was really good with guys and really pushing them. And then when I got my first female on my team, I really offended the crap out of her because you cannot motivate an early 20-some female the same as you can. It's a different pushing and prodding.
I've learned that.
I offended her so bad she hated me no matter what I did for the rest of the time we knew each other, right?
Yes.
And so you have to kind of learn those landscapes. However, it's like, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. This is what you're getting when you bring me on. I am opinionated. Sometimes I'm very easygoing. I'm very high energy. I could seem like I'm a very agreeable until I have an opinion on something. and then I'm not going to be just that person that's like, yeah, that's great. Go at it. I'm going to ask you some questions and we're going to,
People want you to lie to them.
People want you to lie to them. I had this guy on my team and so the people that I suck with, the people like from a coach consultant standpoint, I had to realize being self-aware, the people that I suck with, I started coaching those people at the very beginning and I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. The people that I do well with are the people that like, I can be me and they get something out of it, like it moves them. Yeah. And so I'll just kind of share the story that I told you that I said, the people said they didn't want me to come and speak to their group. I had this guy, he was in a mastermind group when I first started my business. We were in a mastermind group. There's like 6 of us. And have you ever been a part of a mastermind group?
I want to.
So it's pretty awesome. We should form one. That'd be awesome. Sure. Every week there's one person in the group that's in a hot seat and they tell you what they have going on in their business, what some struggles are. And then people in the group ask them questions, give them suggestions, that kind of thing. And then the goal of this particular group was for the next week, they go and do whatever it is and they come back. And the first thing that we do in the meeting is the person in the hot seat gives a quick review of what they did. And so there was this guy in the group, and I've told this story a couple of times now, so I apologize to the audience, but it's a good one. So I told this guy he was a web designer, been doing this business for 20 years, and he was just kind of in this woe is me, like, I used to be successful, now my business is failing. I used to have these clients that loved me, and then over time they left or changed or whatever, things changed. I'm not working with them anymore, and now I'm going out of business. I don't know if I love it. I'm not calling anybody. I'm afraid to call people. Blah blah blah. And people in the group were like being like kind to him, like being like, oh, John, maybe like you should just go home and pray about it and see if you want to keep doing this, or post something on Facebook, like post some stuff that you're looking for work and put it out on Facebook. They were just saying like very lackadaisical stuff. And I was getting so irate at the people that were not giving him the cold, hard truth of what he needed to do that I was like, John, what you really need to do is stop being a pussy. And I saw this guy's eyes like break, right? And I'm like, oh, man. So I'm like, you need to pick up the phone. You said you had all these people that loved working with you. Why don't you call them? Just don't even like, hey, how's it going? It's been a while. I just thought about you. What's going on? Like, and just have conversations with people because you haven't talked to them in so long and you're a good guy. People are going to at least say, John, man, what's up? Right. And so I said this whole spiel and the guy looked like he was really sad and he left and I felt really, really bad about it. And I was driving home and I'm like, man, I should call the guy and apologize. And I went home and I told Gracie about it and she was like, almost made me sleep on the couch. She's like, I can't believe you said that to that guy. And so I felt really bad about it. We go back the next week and we're sitting around the table and the guy goes to give his update. And he's like, this is the best week I've had in my business in the last 10 years. He's like, I was so pissed off at Jason. I was like, who does this guy think he is? I drove home. He was like, all the way home, I was venting to myself, like, who does this guy think he is? I got home. I told my wife exactly what you said. And I'm like, can you believe what this guy said? And I looked at my wife and she couldn't look me in the eye. And he's like, for the first time, I realized you were the only person who had the balls to tell me the truth. And so I got on the phone and I started calling my clients and they were like, oh my God, John, we thought you went out of business. We didn't even know you were still around. I've got some different, and like he started booking business just from calling these people that are already. And so it's like one of those things, like the people that do the best with me take what I say or take those, they get something out of what I say. And so if I water myself down or I offend people, like that's not my person.
Makes sense.
If there's somebody that like every week we're coming and we're talking about the same exact thing because they just didn't take the action, they just want to come and talk about it and complain about what is, that's not my person.
So you have the luxury of being a coach. See, it's not the same for, and you know this.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same for, say, myself or for anybody that, that's not in that same position where you are trying to get inspire people to be like that. Like that's your place in existence, is like
True.
Your place is to inspire people to be that way.
Yeah.
But other people can't be that way because we'll lose money.
Well, so like an entrepreneur, for example, right? So the average entrepreneur impacts 200 people in their lifetime. How do you want to impact those people? You know, like if you're, and so like, I know I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for an entrepreneur that decided he wanted to kick my ass. And not in a physical way. Like he decided, he saw something in me, and he was like, he was what me and you were talking about. Like he wanted for me what I, you know, but I wanted it just as bad as he wanted to give it to me.
Yes.
And so when he started giving it to me, I was like, give me more, give me more, give me more. And I wouldn't be here anywhere close. I don't know what would happen with my life, because he was a big conduit to be able to break out of my victim mindset, to be able to like then flip that around and empower people. And so I look at people like that, like as an entrepreneur, somebody can come in and say, hey, I believe in you. You're here on my team for a reason. And if not anything you get from me for the rest of your life, I hope that there's something that I can help you grow and get to your goals.
Yeah.
And with that, and I would even, if you're hiring, onboarding people, like this is the way that I work. And this is a really open, honest, I want the best for you. And that, you know, this is what it is. If that's not what you want, this is probably not the best organization, that kind of thing.
Is that your EOS?
Is that
yeah, that's is that on your was that VOC?
US, yeah. VTO.
VTO, yeah.
So eat faces is my core value, and I think that probably ties into it.
You're not looking to onboard anybody anytime soon?
No, well, so I am, and it's one of those things, like I've had to get crystal clear with where I want to go with my business, and I've been in this seat, and you've turned it around on me. See, like you're good at flipping around and asking questions. But so like I've been sitting here in this solopreneur seat of building my business, not knowing necessarily where I want to go, and in the last couple of months, I've like gotten crystal clear. Okay, this is where I'm going, and now I can see building out a business, having employees, and when that happens, it's again, I don't want to just be a boss. I hate that term even. You know, like if you're a part of something I'm doing, like let's make some impact. And again, you're not going to be working with me. You might not be working with me for the rest of your life, but hopefully you get something out of this that can change your life.
You don't want to be called a boss because of the ego effect, but in reality, we have to be honest with ourselves.
True.
You know, my brother once said that to me, that being a CEO is just a title, but it's not. It's not just a title. It's an ultimate responsibility for everybody that you're responsible to.
So true. Absolutely.
Like anybody that you're sending money, or you're giving a paycheck, anybody you're signing a contract with, anybody that you're telling will have somebody there at 9 a.m. You're taking that responsibility. It's not a title. It's not. I mean, it's not a meaningless title. It has extreme weight behind it.
Yep.
For things that truly matter.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that because I know what you were saying. You're saying in the ego aspect is that you don't want to be the boss, but in reality, you and I know both it's 110% a responsibility.
And again, I think it's coming down to like there's certain things you have to realize. You have to know that you're the boss. You have to have a certain confidence and awareness of who you are, what your role is, and what your position, and also a realization of what that means. And I love how you look at the impact way, because again, when you're at that top, it's not just you have minions and all, but you have a responsibility to take care of people. Yes. And so that's a huge piece there. And so here's a good example, right? And so you said you can say that because I'm coaching. When I was in my role, I was just, as a sales director, and I had this guy, Josh, and Josh constantly struggled, but he was just a guy that like I could say whatever I wanted to him. So we had this open, honest communication relationship. And Josh would always come and want to pick my brain. And he wouldn't always do the stuff. Sometimes he'd like implement some things here and there, but there's just something that I liked about him in the sense that like he let me talk to him how I would talk to people that I'd want to have impact with. And so Josh, his situation was he was having a baby with his on-again, off-again girlfriend. He was 20 years old, and he was like scared to death of like, how am I going to raise this kid? What am I going to, I have no money. What am I going to do? Yeah. I don't have a college degree. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. But when you're in that maturity of 20 years old, sometimes you step up and, you'd probably step up and just do it. Mm-hmm. Some people, like, they still don't know what they're supposed to do. And so he was coming to work every day and he wasn't hustling. He was talking about fantasy football every day. He was like looking up sports on his phone. He was talking to all the other salespeople. And like at this time of the story, I had two guys that were interviewing for the leadership position of the location he was at. In both of their game plans they presented to me the day before me and Josh had this particular conversation, they had both said in their game plan, one of the first things they'd do is fire Josh because he's a waste of space and he's wasting everybody's time and he's like not doing the job. And so we have this company meeting, and I loved company meetings. So I'd stand up and I'd do my motivational speech and all that kind of stuff. So we do this company meeting, and Josh comes up to me afterwards. And mind you, I'd been at his location all day. I watched him goof around. I watched him do nothing. And so he comes up to me, and he's so pumped up. He's got this tattoo on his arm he just got, and it said, "Don't tell your kids how to live a life of greatness, but instead show them the way." I'm like, that's awesome. Show him the way. I'm like, that's awesome, Josh. I could see he was so proud of it. He was like smiling from ear to ear, showing it to me. He was so happy to show it to me. I was like, that's awesome, Josh. I'm like, what'd you do? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what'd you do today to show Grayson that you know how to live a life of greatness? Like, you're not going to go home and tell him how to do it. Obviously, he's a baby, but what are you doing right now in order to speak those words into existence? Yeah. And this big burly guy who's got all these tattoos on, like, looked at me and started crying.
That's awesome.
And I was like, because that's all good said, that's great. That's almost like getting a no regrets tattoo on the side of your neck. Like you just, there's no, that's all just talk.
Nothing.
You're just you're just talking the talk. You're not
you just
walking
showed
walk.
it. All you did was tell us permanently without ever having to say a word exactly. We know.
Now if we anchor this, because Josh, awesome, you got this tattoo on your arm. Now let's anchor it. Every single day you look at this. Mm-hmm. When you don't want to pick up that phone and make that sales call, look at that and be like, I've got to show my son the way. Yeah. He might not even be watching, but I know, right? Josh. So man, look at that. And it causes pain, right? Yeah. And so it just moved him. And the guy ended up becoming my most successful salesperson in my company. Cool. The long story short is when I left my company, he took my role.
That's awesome that you say that, because that's really what wealth is. Really, wealth is what you're leaving behind with your kids. I think about that all the time when I see my sons being like super loving and gentle with their little sister or with each other. I've got a 4-year-old, I've got a 2.5-year-old, and I've got an 8-month-old little girl. All the other two are boys. So my 4-year-old is wearing smaller diapers than my 2.5-year-old. My 2.5-year-old is built like a linebacker. It's amazing. He's going to be bigger than me because I wasn't big for my age until I was in 9th grade, and he's 2.5. And he's a monster. And so anyway, they're both super gentle with their little sister, and they're really becoming really good brothers. And I see that that's an extension of who I am, because I focus on being gentle and caring with them, because that's not who I am naturally. I'm like a pile of rocks, how soft I am. Jagged rocks that are holding back a bunch of sand. It's like, but I've become that way. And people say it's your daughters will make you do that. And, it probably has helped.
Softens you up.
But it's also a conscious effort, because not because of her, but because I want my sons to be more gentle with each other. Like when we're at the playground, I've seen this a couple times, like I can see already the openness in my sons, because my 4-year-old, if a little kid is crying, can go up and try and wipe their tears off. And parents hate that. Parents hate people being intimate with each other. Or most people hate being intimate. We have a problem with that.
It makes people uncomfortable, right?
We have a problem with that here in America, I guess.
Yeah.
My brother is from Malaysia, and we give each other hugs all the time, and it's just like people have a problem with that kind of thing. But my son will like try and wipe off their tears and like pat him on the back and say, don't cry. And then other parents will be like, get him away from my son. It's like, they can't touch each other.
That's so crazy.
And I'll see parents like go to the playground with their kids, and like they're the ones playing with their kids.
Yeah.
Aren't they here to socialize?
Yeah.
Like the whole time. And then my kids are super social. So they'll go up to their kids and like try and play with them, and like the parents will be like you can almost see like them tighten up. Like they're afraid of what's going to happen. Like, oh my God, they're like, what's going to happen? Like maybe the sand get in his eye or something. People are so afraid. Like,
wow.
My kids tend to be some of the most well-behaved kids. They're the most boisterous for sure. Like they're all over the place, and they have to be careful of their limbs and stuff. But that's because they're boys. Yeah. But they're very gentle, and like if they were to accidentally knock down a kid, whether it's the 2.5-year-old knocks one down or the 4-year-old knocks one down, they're gonna say, oh, and try and like help them up or stop them from crying and stuff. It's like, it's what you said. Like, what are you displaying to your kids? Like, And your kids are the best representation of that.
5,000%.
My kids, I enjoy my kids. It's very easy to have kids. I've spent, whole days from 24 hours night till dawn, like with all three of my kids, put them to bed, diapers, love and school and all that stuff. And it's not hard if you love them and you want to be around them.
Yeah.
And you're efficient. I mean, it really helps to be efficient. Like the amount of times like efficiency has helped me, it's insane. Efficiency when you have three. Yeah. I only have one. So yeah. Oh yeah, you see me. I had 3 bags in this hand. I got the stroller over here. I'm holding my 50-pound 2.5-year-old, my 4-year-old, and just do whatever we got to do. But now I've actually coached my 4-year-old and my 2.5-year-old. Now at the mill pond, they walk around just fine. They have their own little things they like doing. They like hopping up on the rocks and climbing around and looking at the ducks, and they stay far enough away from the water. I tell them, I don't want to get wet today. And they seem to understand that. So that really just lets me focus most of my attention on just observing the overall. So training them to be able to operate on their own without me.
I love how many times in how many different sectors in this conversation is like looking at relationships and just the normal everyday things and kind of a system and process.
Mm-hmm. They have to be worked. Like you can't know a relationship is without work, whether it be a brotherhood or a husband and wife or a business partnership. Everything has to be worked, and it has to be worked hard with intention. With intention. Not by accident.
And I love bringing that back up and going back into the candles in talking about like, one, I love how you do so much community involvement. You're doing all the different events. But like I was saying before we jumped on, just your presence, and it's always a big deal for me. Like I was explaining, being in the industry, working a lot of community events. I love working community events, but I'm a big judge on looking at the tables and just being able to eye up and be like, do these people even want to be here? Are they good at what they're doing? Yeah. That kind of thing. And I've walked by you, and whether it's a farmer's market or the barbecue fest, you've got a level of engagement where you just look so approachable and you have a smile. And before we got on, you were talking about that level of awareness and how that's intentional. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit. Yeah,
you have to. So every time I see a new customer walking by, whoever they may be, I assess each one of them individually. Some people, they don't want to be talked to. Some people aren't, they're not open to it. So they might have headphones on or, trying to block out everything that's going on around them. So each individual, I'll meet them where they're at. And I've always been good at that. I'm always good at doing that, meeting people, whether it be in a professional environment, meeting them where they're at, whether my responsibility to them is 10% or 100%, whatever they're wanting. So when it comes to different people, some people I engage with heavily. Like I'll talk to them. I'll be like, what candles do you like? What do you normally have some at home? Do you like it? Which scent is your favorite here? That kind of thing. Have you ever seen these before? Just engaging with them. And then some other people just want to just browse through. And I've had people that don't want to say a word to me buy $300 worth of candles in one or two goes. And it's just like everybody has the potential to engage with in some fashion. It just depends on what they want, what they're open to, And like we were talking about today at our Overcoming Objections class, is that you have to redirect. I have no problem. I'm never hungry for a sale. I'm not a desperate person for money at all. I've told you that. It's not my motivator.
Yep.
So it allows me a lot of freedom with how I can interact with people. Like I think 10% of people I sell to. I think if I interact with 100 people, I'm going to sell to 10 people.
Okay.
So that just means I have to get shows where I'm interacting with more people or interact more. Sometimes I'll go through 100 business cards before I make a sale, but I'm always making sure people walk away with a card. I don't care if they throw it away, put it in their purse, never see it again, or if 6 months from now they look at it like, I need a birthday present. I remember those things. Because as soon as people as soon as you're in someone's head, it's all about how much space did you take in their head?
Yep.
And then how can we get that space to be reignited again later?
Yes. Yeah, and it's mixing it in. And I know you do stuff on social media and, having that presence, being in the community, and then having the physical location in itself, you're hitting people in a few different ways there.
Yeah. So when we actually got the store here in Brighton, it was never the intention to get that store as far as having a retail space. It just kind of grew into that as time went on. And so we were really looking for a workspace. Up until we got the store, 100% of our sales came from workshops. We hardly got any online sales. So most of it, not workshops, from trade shows and craft shows and vendor shows, stuff like that. And so since we've got the retail space, it's slowly taking a hold in the community, and especially with it being Christmas, that's helpful. And that's taken up a larger percentage. And we also do our online sales. We do direct services. So we'll design specific candles for people who want them custom. So we have a couple of customers who come with us that we want a representation of their business. So I have a customer who has an animal as their logo. And so what we were able to do is we were able to take that as our inspiration, and we found an animal that we could turn into a candle holder, and we're creating a candle for their brand, and they're going to send that out to a bunch of their customers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Just kind of the creativeness and the thoughtfulness that combines with that.
Yeah. And it's really fun because it allows me and my wife to really engage in our theoretical creative process instead of always putting things, whether it be our business creativity or our artistic creativity, we are able to take it and apply it to someone else's brand and how we can blend those two things. So for instance, we have a couple of people that have asked us for golf themed candles, and I actually came up with an amazing idea. What is the one thing a golfer hates?
Rain.
Hazards.
Hazards. Yeah.
Hazards, sand and water. So we have this gel wax, which we can make perfectly clear so you can see the stuff that's inside of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a jar full of clear gel wax, a golf ball at the bottom of it, and a bunch of leaves with a layer of mud at the bottom.
Oh, man.
So it looks like your ball got put in the hazard.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's just one little cool idea I had. And another one. So some brands don't have super real world things. Like they don't have an animal for their logo. So like a lion, I could easily make you candles.
Yeah.
But let's say they have just a normal logo, like say an L and an R. Like we'll just call it Longmire Realty or whatever. So an L and an R. I can take that and I can get custom labels printed, and we can put that on a candle that we design together. Maybe with depending on what you want, maybe flowers. Maybe you just want some cool colors, or maybe you want Michigan State colors. Maybe you want a maize and blue. Who knows?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we can do stuff like that.
So really, the sky's the limit with kind of custom stuff.
Yeah, we can really get creative. Especially if we really want to get into weddings. We really want to do centerpieces.
Ooh.
Because if you have something that's flower oriented, we could really just go insane. If you wanted something that's funny, we go with something funny. If you wanted something that is, we've had this a couple times actually. We gave a pair of skeleton hands holding a black bowl with a graveyard on top, just a bunch of cemetery stones, tombstones on top.
I saw this one. It's so cool. Yeah.
And that was actually someone custom ordered that for someone's wedding gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because there's themed weddings. You could have a Gothic themed wedding. You could have a Halloween themed wedding. You could have Christmas. You could have anything.
Themed wedding. Yeah.
Superman. You could literally do anything. You can find containers and bring them to us, or we can go out and find containers. We can build containers. We do cement molds. So we do all kinds. We've only just barely tapped into what we are going to offer in the future as far as products go. Like there is just so much capability. It just comes down to finances and labor. Sometimes finances go ahead and then labor has to hustle to meet up. But then sometimes finances might pull back and labor has to be shrunk.
Yeah.
But then there's other times where you're just constantly growing all these different facets, pushing different things forward.
Well, and so like how many candles did you sell this weekend?
Oh, I've never counted the number.
Never counted them?
I've never counted the number, but if I was to guess, I would say 150 maybe.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
I know you said you had a big dollar amount or whatever, so I didn't know how many of that translated.
I normally count them in crates. So I have these crates I pack them into for transit, and I have to carry them all. So I'm hucking, and I'm big, so I load them right up. I carry around this 100-pound crate of candles, and I just count them by crates. So if I've sold 3-4 crates, so I sold probably 5 crates of candles.
So like thinking about that, like how do you prepare to order, that many candles or like make that many, have the supplies? You're talking about that kind of balance, like especially starting out. How do you start that out?
That's the fun part of the marriage is learning it's easy to me. Yeah. It's very easy to me, this efficiency mindset, but I don't make the candles. And it would take a lot of time for me to be able to master how to make the candles in a way that I could implement a factory style setting. So it doesn't make sense for that. Do you know what's much easier than that is to teach my wife efficiency and help her understand that factory mindset. And then she can implement her own systems with my help and guidance. Because I know how to do it, but it's not my baby.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's her baby, but I'm her coach.
It's just that partnership.
Yeah, it's fun. It's so much fun. And it's like, we know that there's no limits on either of us. You know, especially together and especially with the people we have around us. And I'm hoping as time goes on, we can like absorb more of those people and draw them to us. And like, this isn't the end. Like I don't want to just have candles. I don't want to just be involved with one business. I want other people to see my value that I can bring to them and help pushing them forward and help curate other businesses. I actually think there's a huge potential there that's being missed with, I think the networking groups have huge missed potential in that all of these professionals coming together are networking as groups, but we could do so much as a group together, I think, in different aspects.
Ooh.
You know, we all have
like
these
collaborations and stuff like that, is what you're saying?
Finding young business owners who have the upward mobility into the stars. Like I think there's many people out there that are professionals that know where their limits are or have put limits on themselves maybe. And there's other people out there that have no limits, but maybe have lack of resources. And I think that the networking groups would do well to find those people and push them forward. Because the other option is that they're on their own.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I think I would be a great candidate for something like that. I hope that one day I can attract that. If not, I can do this by myself. But that would just be a 10x or a 100x. You know, it's easier to 100x than for me to 1x or 2x every day, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that concept.
I think there's a book about that. It's easy, or a saying about that it's easier to 10x than 2x.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, as far as the networking groups and
yeah.
just to be able to way for them to be able to elevate, I love what you're talking about there.
It's wasted energy otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's another reason probably that I haven't joined any networking groups is like, it's not that I don't want to. And it's not that I don't see the value because I can gain so much from all these people, but I think it would be a misappropriation of my time. And I think that having that time available to see the other things that are out there is much better.
Well, so I mean, you've gotten kind of everywhere, you know, and I think that you with the IT business, you were pretty heavily involved in the community and the chambers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was pushing that. Yes.
Because it's one of those things like, I said I see you on social media, but I see like your network and your connections. Like there's a lot of people that talk about you, push your name, you know, like there's a lot of stuff out there, which is awesome. It's the work that you're putting out there.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad I'm putting out a good energy out there. You know, that's what I want. I want to be someone that people come to as well. You know, I want to curate other people that are, it's hard for me to say this, but underneath. Like, I don't want to say that in a derogative way or that I'm above anybody. It's just like that there's different levels to business.
Yep.
And so, like my cousin, for instance, she once reached out to me and said, hey, you know, I wanted to grow my detailing business. Can I come over and meet? And I said, yeah, absolutely. This is the date I have available. And she said, okay, I'll be there. Never showed up, never asked about it again. But that is I just think about the amount of money that just got pissed down the toilet at that, you know?
Yeah.
For no reason.
No reason.
Like one meeting and I could just be like, I could lay out some stuff, but it's like, you can only meet people where they're at. So I'm hoping that as time goes on, especially with this is the first time I'm talking about this, especially because you have so many listeners, maybe there's someone out there that you could utilize both our help. And we were talking about, what you said, a think tank or a
mastermind.
A mastermind. So can you what is that again?
So a mastermind is a group of business owners, kind of like you're talking about. You bring in, you know, if you have a certain people that are on a certain level, you don't want people that are like one's down here, one's here. If you have a perfect mastermind, they're all in that same kind of wavelength. Yeah. They might think differently, but they're
their finances might look different, but the thinking is the same.
The thinking is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you get a group of, 5 to 8 people, and they meet. Sometimes every other month, every other week, or it depends on how you set up the group. The one I did, we met up every week. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was like every Wednesday morning at like 7 a.m. we got together, and one person would be on the hot seat. They would go through, what their biggest challenges are in business, and we would all sit and be like that think tank and help them, have you thought of this? Have you met this person? Kind of connect the resources. I think that is the ideal mastermind, is when you have people, it's not just like struggling business people, when you have people that are in those positions with those resources, with that mindset to be like, have you tried this? Or have you met this person? Can you connect this? And so you're really pushing each other forward.
Yeah. That sounds good. Yeah. We should definitely talk about that.
Yeah. No, that'd be fun. And it's been a long time since I've been one. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily always balanced, the ones I've been in, because it was like, you're just kind of getting people that were kind of all over the board. And so you have some people that are here in business, or that they're really pouring into the people more than what everybody's getting into it.
And I think that's an interesting thing too, is that you have to be in that generous mindset.
You do. Yeah.
You have to be willing to give.
Absolutely. 5,000%.
You can't be like, I have to get something out of this, because what you get out of it is not necessarily going to be immediate. And I think a lot of people fall into that.
Yep.
And a lot of people in my life specifically, they don't want to do anything unless there's $1 that comes out at the end of it. If there's not a date where $1 is going to be attached to it, they don't want to do it. Yeah. There's no value there. If I had that mindset, I wouldn't be here right now.
5,000%.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. Quite literally, I was doing this for completely free. Like, I was like trying to figure out my business. I was going out and having conversations like this, and I was feeling bad because my wife was going to a job that she hated, and I was making no money. I was like going out and having these enriching conversations, feeling great about life, right? I'm like, I'm getting so much better as a person, like having these conversations. And then
she's at work.
One day I had made the mistake of saying that I worked really hard, and she was like, "You don't know hard work." You're right. I don't know hard work right now. Like, I meant that I was busy. I was really busy, but I was doing stuff that I loved doing. And then it was the ultimate basis of this whole entire podcast, was those conversations that I was having. Because I was going out and I was picking the brain of other people. I wanted to learn from people. And what I was learning is there's some amazing people that nobody knows their stories. Like, I'm trying to get myself out there and create content, and so are they.
Yeah.
And so what if I brought a camera with me and we're having this great conversation, and I hit record, and, I let them know, obviously, and I hit record and I create content for us, and I put little clips out there.
Yeah.
And so that's what ended up happening. And then it just so happened that I'd have these conversations and like we'd end up having a 2-hour conversation, and I'm putting out like 15 minutes of content out of that 2 hours. I'm like, what do I do with all this stuff? And one of my friends was like, put it up on a podcast. There's this like platform you can just plug in podcasts. I'll put it up on Apple and iTunes and all that stuff. And I'm like, cool. So I was throwing up. If you go back and listen to my raw episodes, I think we were talking about the early days of podcasting this morning at boot camp. And it's like, if you go back to my early days of podcasting, it was literally, I would hit record. We'd have a warm-up conversation talking about random stuff, and I posted the whole entire thing. So nice. I forget about what I post until sometimes I go back and listen, and I'll just laugh my ass off, because it's like, that's so funny. Yeah,
it's definitely fun. I've always thought about doing a podcast too. If I was going to do it, it'd definitely be here at Speakeasy. This place is awesome.
They make this place. They make it just so easy. It's pro.
This is big time.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah. It's absolutely. This is.
And they do everything.
Savior. They do everything.
Yeah, I think they have a whole social media team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they can really take care of stuff.
Yep.
And they're very reasonable rates too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, it's there's so much to love about this. Very reasonable, but it helps people to really be able to set up and create that difference. It's so hard to go out there and, like I said earlier today, the hardest thing for an entrepreneur or a salesperson to do is get people to understand that they're human, or see them as a human. But when you're going out there and you're creating content and you put yourself out there, it allows that to happen. People get to know you without you even realizing it.
What's funny is you actually asked me what started this whole self-conscious look at myself. And now that you said that, I think about it, it's actually was selling candles. Because I didn't realize I was good at sales until I started selling candles. And just if you realize you're good at something, then you want to improve it. Like, you want to be the best at it. You want to just keep going and going and going and figuring it out.
Yep.
And so constantly self-analyzing and adjusting and figuring out how to deal with different situations and dealing with different people. How do I improve how things look? That's actually where my self-reflection really started, I think, is probably in sales, because I had to look at how I looked when I was approaching people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then it just kind of extends from there, and then parenting too, having kids, just learning how, like you said, when you're not looking, they're actually looking. Or when you don't know they're looking.
They're absolutely looking. They're absolutely watching.
They absorb everything.
my son's older, he's 16, and so we're now in the stage of him in a relationship, in seeing like how he treats his girlfriend, like how he, it's again, I was like, wow, I see myself, in a good way.
Nice.
Thankfully, it's like, because it's like be one of those things like, oh man, I see myself.
Yeah.
But to see that and be like, oh man, he's been watching. That's so awesome. To like, just comes natural for him.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I've met other people like that too. And it's just like, wow, is this what I get to look forward to? Because I've seen other fathers, it's very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare. But I've seen other fathers with older sons, 13, like yours was 16. So I've seen different ages, and I get to see when they've actually have a good relationship with their father, and their father was a good example. And it's just like, wow, I can't wait. I'm already having fun with it.
And it's so cool, I think, on both sides, because I was about to say, like, it's really good for girls because you're setting the standard for who they're going to be with, right?
Yes.
You're setting that standard 100%. Without you even knowing it. But then you look at the boys too.
I feel sorry for my daughters. Oh my God. Like, I just think about how many of me are there, how many similar guys like myself, and then similar guys that also have a moral system, and then similar guys who are going to be in a position that they're like, okay, I want to get married for the right reasons. I want to make a family.
Yeah.
It's just, wow, that's going to be such a number. The percentage is going to be so low.
But to your point, like it's the intentionality, and as your daughters grow up and they understand, they see it clearly. You've not only modeled it, but I'm sure you're talking about it openly. Especially as they get older, in tying that down to that process and being intentional. You can find the right person when you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. I think that's a similar thing with arranged marriages, that arranged marriage, it sounds horrendous because of the way it's practiced. But an arranged marriage is just arranging the people that are in your life. Just because of who me and my kids are, we're probably not going to attract people that we don't want to be around us. So by extension, then my kids' only experiences with the opposite sex will be with people that have similar values, or at least outwardly present those similar values. So that's just arranging the marriage, like arranging the people that are going to be around that they have the potential to have a future relationship with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also creating things that keep your family tight, keeping them together. Family business is the best thing in the world if you do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, what more again? Like you guys, you two are going to constantly grow and evolve in business. Period. And what better way to stay connected than when you're both growing and evolving together?
Yeah, it's so much fun. I think all the time how lucky I am to just be able to spend every day constantly bettering each other, being able to compliment each other, experiencing the successes, the failures, there's no failures, the drawbacks, the hesitations, like all the stuff we're able to figure out together, and planning this, just building something together. We built a family, we've had houses, so we've built homes together. And so now we're building a business together.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Man, James, this has been such an awesome conversation. I can't wait for it to come out and people to hear this, and check out My Wife's Candles.
Yeah. .com. And on everything, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yep. And if you're out and about in the area and you're at a community event, stop by the booth and say hi to James or Jessica. Also,
we have a store as well. It's in the same building as the Tropical Smoothie Cafe on the corner of Old 23 and East Grand River in Brighton.
So awesome.
Yep.
James, man, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. It's fun.